Out of all the MCU movies that have come out after Avengers Endgame, the one that has divided me the most has to be Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. For me, there is no denying that it was an exciting, action-packed movie, but at the same time I have some rather conflicted views on it. I thought it would be appropriate to express some of these in the form of a movie review, as this allows me to do a more detailed analysis of it than I could simply in my head. Now, this review will be a little bit different than my previous one for Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the main difference will be that the plot summary, things I liked and things I disliked, won't be so cleanly separated this time around. Seeing as this is one single movie and not a series like Kenobi, I will discuss the plot and make comments on what I did and didn't like about certain parts as I progress. Please don't leave halfway through. Don't make me sad. Just as in the previous video, I will be doing this review with full spoilers, so if you haven't seen the movie yet and don't want to be spoiled, this is your warning. Alright, enough rambling, let's get into the review. First, I'd like to give some general thoughts. Visually, this movie was stunning, and for me, was easily one of the best-looking films I've seen in quite a while. The music and sound design are also amazing. Props to Danny Elfman for composing the soundtrack. The movie is fairly fast-paced, and apart from a couple of short scenes, I never found myself getting bored or losing interest. While I wouldn't exactly consider it to be one of my favorite movies, for me personally, it was definitely worth seeing in the theater, and there were a lot of moments that I'm very glad to have experienced on the big screen. On the other hand, while there were many things that I loved about this movie, there were also a fairly substantial list of things that I had problems with. Not enough to make me consider it a bad movie, but enough to have some very conflicted opinions. At least it was a lot better than some of the stuff that's come out in the past while. Oh, and as a bit of a warning, don't be fooled by the PG-13 rating. There are many parts of this movie that are not at all appropriate for kids. I'll elaborate on that further later on in the video. With those points aside, let's take a look at the movie itself. The opening sequence jumps right into the action as Doctor Strange and a teenage girl run through a brilliantly crafted mess of CGI. It's rather confusing as to its purpose at first, but it looks amazing. Pursued by a monster made of flaming ribbons, they attempt to retrieve the Book of Vishanti, a magical book that evidently is very valuable. After Strange tries to take the girl's powers and almost kills her, saying that he doesn't want them to fall into the wrong hands, the ribbon creature suddenly appears and kills him. Dang. Didn't expect the movie to end that quickly. Guess that's all I got for today. See ya, guys. After this happens, the girl, after seemingly being almost devoured herself, suddenly generates a portal, and just as she's being sucked through it, the real Doctor Strange wakes up and it becomes evident that it was a dream. I don't know about you, but I always love it when a movie starts off with an action sequence. Gets you pumped up and ready for what's gonna come later on. The movie transfers into a temporary stretch of relative normalcy, with Strange going to a wedding. Turns out the bride is someone he was previously in love with, a woman named Christine Palmer, who was also apparently in the first Doctor Strange movie, but I honestly did not remember her at all. Either it's been too long since I watched that movie, or maybe her character just wasn't that memorable. Frankly, I have no idea which. Just as you thought this movie was getting comfortable, enter Alien Eyeball Octopus, otherwise known as Gargantos, but I think we can all agree that doesn't sound nearly as good. Although, jokes aside, Gargantos is actually a pretty cool name, not gonna lie. We get a classic monster attack scene with Big Eyeball climbing up buildings and everyone running around screaming. The girl from Strange's dream suddenly shows up and it becomes apparent that the huge creature is specifically going after her. Strange and Wong. Yep, couldn't have a Doctor Strange movie though, Wong. Fight Octopus Boy for some time before finally skewering him right through the eyeball with a streetlight pole, effectively killing him while simultaneously grossing out half the audience. I don't know if I would exactly call this gore, but it did make my brain wince just a tiny bit. Whatever. After this encounter, Strange, Wong, and the girl sit down to talk about what happened, and we learn that she has the ability to travel the multiverse, and that Strange's dream at the beginning of the movie was no dream but actually happened in a different universe. The joke about Spider-Man's webs in the scene I thought felt really forced was really not funny. This happens a few times throughout the movie and is one of my more minor complaints. Humor inserted either in places where it doesn't belong, isn't well done, or both. It's not a big deal, but it does get a little annoying sometimes. Trying to find out why Octopus Boy was after her, Strange seeks the help of someone who is well versed in magic, Wanda Maximoff. She appears to be living a normal life, but it's soon revealed that this was an illusion and that she is using the Darkhold, the Book of the Damned. This is a continuation from the end credit scene of WandaVision. Speaking of which, it's probably worth noting that a lot of this movie won't make much sense if you haven't seen WandaVision, which probably wasn't the best choice, as a lot less people will likely have seen this Disney Plus show than they would have some of the mainstream movies that came before this one, such as Spider-Man No Way Home. Another thing that bugged me was the disconnect between No Way Home and Multiverse of Madness. The former showed the multiverse being opened up, so I was both surprised and somewhat disappointed that they didn't make more of a connection between the two. And I'm not sure where I heard this, but I was under the impression that Loki and Sylvie from the Loki show were supposed to be in this movie as well, which they weren't. Continuing on, Strange and Wanda have a brief discussion which gives us the main plot point of the movie. Wanda wants the kid she created in WandaVision back, and upon discovering the girl, who we find out a little later is named America Chavez, wishes to use her abilities to find another universe where her kids still exist. It's revealed that it was Wanda herself who sent Ribbon Monster an eyeball after her, and that she will do anything she needs in order to find America and get to her boys. It becomes quite apparent that Wanda's mind has been corrupted by the Darkhold, influencing her to think the way that she does in this movie.
Wanda, your children aren't real. You created them using magic.
That's what every mother does.
Strange goes to the fortress of Camartage, where America is being kept with all of the masters of the mystic arts. Wanda shows up, and after Strange tries to reason with her, and fails, she proceeds to attack the fortress and absolutely obliterates all of its defenses. This was pretty epic to see in the theater, and I thought that introducing Wanda as the movie's main villain was a surprising twist that I quite honestly was not expecting. It was certainly more interesting than just coming up with yet another generic new villain. While it was a bit sad that she went full evil as Wanda is my favorite MCU character, I gotta say, her action scenes in this movie are pretty awesome. Some of the best that I've seen since Infinity War and Endgame. I feel like I'm rambling a bit here, so I'll try to step up the pace a little. After being trapped and subsequently breaking out of the mirror dimension in a rather gruesome way, Wanda tries to get America, but in a fit of panic she generates a portal, sucking her and Strange through a total of 19 alternate universes, before finally flying out and landing in the 20th, which we find out later is called Earth 838. They decide their best bet is to try and find that universe's Doctor Strange, and they proceed through a city to locate the Sanctum. On the way there, Strange makes an old guy punch himself in the face non-stop for 2 weeks just for calling him an imposter.
Bruh.
They then stop at a place called Memory Lane and re-experience a couple of old memories, which leads into possibly the dumbest movie scene I have witnessed in a long time. America is shown as a young girl in a different universe where her, quote, parents are two women who can somehow have a child? As if that wasn't ridiculous enough already, she gets scared by a bee and accidentally generates a portal which sucks the two women through. A freaking bee. It really felt like Disney was trying more to push an agenda here than actually tell a convincing or meaningful origin story. Heck, the Bee movie probably makes more sense than this scene, and I've heard a lot of weird stuff about that movie. The whole thing is honestly just so stupid it's laughable. I actually skipped it on my second watch of the movie, which is something that I don't often do with movie scenes, even if I dislike them somewhat. Sorry, I know I said I'd step the pace up, but I just had to take a moment to make fun of this awful scene. Moving on. Strange and America make their way to the Sanctum, and meet Baron Mordo, yet another character from the first Doctor Strange movie that I forgot about. I really need to watch that one again, don't I? Mordo tells them about a forbidden spell known as Dreamwalking, which is complemented with an overlay of Wanda and Camartage, doing just that. Turns out Mordo drugged the drinks, and as Strange and America pass out on the floor, we cut to Wanda using the Dreamwalking spell to possess the body of her Earth 838 self. This scene is rather disturbing and has some pretty creepy moments. Back at Camartage, Wong has been taken prisoner by Wanda and must hang, helpless as she dreamwalks. One of the other sorcerers, a woman named Sarah, sacrifices herself to destroy the Darkhold while Wanda is busy inside her spell. And by sacrifice, I mean she literally gets turned into ash. Yikes, remind me never to stab a magic book with a knife. With the Darkhold destroyed, Wanda is broken out of her spell and she then turns on Wong, torturing several other sorcerers until he tells her of a location containing the entire multiverse's Darkholds. Cut to Strange in America being held in prison cells in a building that turns out to be the headquarters of an Avengers-like organization called
The Illuminati.
Yep, heard some laughs in the theater after that one.
The Illuminati?
And who shows up but Christine Palmer, or rather, the Earth 838 version of her. She explains that Strange could be considered a threat and therefore they have to keep him locked up for the time being, complete with anti-magic handcuffs. Going back to regular Earth again, Wanda forces Wong to lead her to Mount Wundagore, a dismal-looking place with an ancient, ruined castle perched on top that contains all the Darkholds mentioned earlier. From there, Wanda starts dreamwalking again, and this time she takes over her alternate self far more easily, given that she's already done it once already. Although the arrival at the Darkhold Castle is one of my favorite moments from the movie in terms of visuals and music, and also the buildup of tension it creates, I can't help but wonder why Wong was so willing to help her. You'd think that he could have faked the location and led her on a wild goose chase somewhere else, but I guess not. lead her right to the place that she needs to be with little hesitation. With yet another scene change, Strange is brought before the Illuminati Council, which contains members from both the X-Men and Fantastic Four. Never expected to see that in an MCU movie. And while he talks with them, Earth 838 Wanda, who's possessed by evil Wanda, flies to the Illuminati headquarters and begins destroying the army of Ultron bombs in her way. How poetic. 4 of the Illuminati members, Reed Richards, Black Bolt, Captain Carter, and Captain Marvel, a different version of her who's no better than the original one I might add, attempt to stop Wanda from getting to America. This results in a fight that, apart from the stupid moment at the beginning where 2 of them just stand there and watch the others die before reacting, was possibly the craziest, most intense and violent fight scene I've ever witnessed in a Marvel movie. Black Bolt's head flippin' explodes,
What mouth?
and Captain Carter gets cut in half with her own shield. This is one of the several scenes that really pushed the PG-13 rating. I will say, though, it made for one of the best theater experiences I've had in a while, especially with the larger screen and enhanced sound from the Ultra AVX theater that I went to. I came home with my head still ringing from the sound of Captain Carter's shield bouncing off of things. Man, theaters really have a way of making that kind of stuff sound incredibly awesome. Also, I'm aware that a lot of people have been pointing out the fact that Reed Richards told Wanda about Black Bolt's power and calling him stupid for it. And well, yes, it did seem dumb on the surface. I saw some comments saying that being the kind man he was, Reed didn't want to kill Wanda, as evidenced with this dialogue.
You've possessed an innocent woman, but you can still do the right thing. Let her go.
He was trying to give her a chance, and none of them really had any way of knowing that Wanda had the ability to literally alter reality. They probably just expected her to attack with her standard red magic, at which Black Bolt would have no choice but to kill her. So, well, yeah, it still might seem a little dumb on the surface. I can mostly excuse it for the reasons that I just stated. And regarding the fact that the 2 men were taken out immediately while the other 2 actually did something, I like to think that Wanda, being the demented person she is in this scene, killed off the most dangerous person, and the one who'd likely be the strategist, and then thought, well, this is boring, I want to fight someone, then let Captain Marvel and Captain Carter attack her to give them false confidence before killing them off as well. Oh yeah, that fight scene is so exciting that I almost forgot the fight between Strange and Mordo that takes place at the same time. Strange wins, of course.